from what Vijay Bhaskar was telling me, he can get a set of tweet IDs from the page, scraping whatever is the result. So some of them could also be replies to the thread. So we need to figure that out. That is simple. I mean, we can look at the conversation ID parameter, but we still need to look at the response and filter it out.
Okay, fine.
So that is still there.
Yeah, the agenda for this discussion, right? Like Puru, you joined.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, so Mira and Puru, you both are more comfortable into the, coding, right? Like you both know much better than most of other people. So what I want this call mostly to go through this code and let us discuss about, not about the future perspective, we can discuss in the later part. Let us discuss what we have developed till now. It is a sync call so that anybody new want to join, right? So they can follow our discussion and started understanding the code, because lots of people asking like what is happening, they're unable to follow it.
Okay.
We'll spend a few minutes. So Puru, you're fine with that, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be simply monitoring the call, so you both can pinch in and discuss your views. No need to go into very technical detail, but you can just explain about how the flow is, and what are the env file, what is that different component, where to see in the code and other thing.
Can I take the lead, Profil?
Yeah, feel free to take the lead, and you can explain. Then Puru also can jump in later, but you can.
Yeah. So basically, I'll start. Puru, you join for the tweet processing part because you've done a lot of work there on how to render the HPS template and all that. So you can focus on that. Is that okay, Puru?
Yeah, okay.
So I'm
Let
new
me
to
start
know.
recording.
Okay.
Yeah, that is fine. See, Mira, one more suggestion. There is no need to emphasize the new to not. That is not required. You are advanced and you are one of the top 1-2% people who are contributing. You can see that, right?
Okay.
There are so many
No,
people who don't know what is module export, import, and promises. If you hear the Kenny discussion, I want to help them, like Sekhar and other people, Trombley, and they're unable to start by themselves. They're getting confused a lot.
Okay. No, the reason why I said I'm new is because how I start a project is by looking at the package.json. That is the first file that I
Yeah,
look at.
whichever the direction you will go, you just tell me that. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
So I'll open the file what you want to open, okay? Just
Okay.
let me start the recording and we'll just have a small intro and we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, hello guys. Hi Mira and hi Puru.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, today we'll discuss about like what are the code we have implemented. Like this is anybody new coming into the project, they can just check out this Twindle project, and we have bunch of things they can explore it. But the important part is Twindle-CLI and Twindle-Wave. So today we have Puru and Mira who is contributing significantly to this code base. Mostly we'll discuss about Twindle-CLI. This would be our main phase 1 objective, which is responsible for doing most of the thing. So we can just discuss about it. So Mira, you want to start talking about it?
Yes. So can you open the package.json file? So this is the starting point. So this explains our full project, the overview of the project. So if you come to the dependencies, you can see a bunch of dependencies. So yeah, some of them, it's not comprehensive to explain everything, but I would just like to point out a few packages from where you can start understanding the thread. So Yarguest, the last package that you see is the package that's going to help us to figure out the command line parameters that we are passing to the application. .env, the second package that you see there, is the package that we need for getting the environment variables. So from this point, I will go to the code base.
One second, because we already here in the dependency Mira. Let us talk to
just
Puru.
finish everything. Okay.
Let us talk to Puru. If he know about few of the module he introduced, he can talk about a little bit about that. So we don't need to come again here.
Yeah, I introduced 3 modules here. The first one, date-fns. I use it to like simply just format the date into a readable format like NOV space 12 comma 2020, something like that. And then there's third last item, string dot prototype dot match all. It, it's it's quite this feature is still not in Node. Like it works like you can just read it. It's actually a simple like string dot prototype dot match all. You simply run it like that, but it's not in Node right now. So I simply use this kind of a polyfill or just like an external library to use it. I use it to determine the tweet ID robustly from the URL. And then there's to emoji, the second last package. It's simply going to replace all the Unicode emojis with images that look exactly like the Twitter emojis. That's it.
Okay, sounds good. And
Okay.
can you talk
The
about this node fetch little bit about Mira? I think you introduced
yeah.
this.
Yeah, so fetch is a JavaScript function, but it doesn't work in Node.js. So there is a package called Node Fetch, which basically provides that function. So that for that, this package is included. Fetch is the JavaScript function for making HTTP requests. So get, post, put, all those kinds of requests, and we need that for integration with the Twitter API. So for making the Twitter API calls.
Excellent.
What else is there?
And handlebar and puppeteer, can you tell about why we are using handlebar and puppeteer?
Puru, can you handle that?
Yeah, okay. Uh, See, handlebars here is a templating language. Like you you just simply write a simple HTML file, and then there are small like you could say what's that word, variables. Yeah. So you you can actually have some spots in which the script is going to fill in the data. So that's what handlebars does. And
You
then
can call
there's
it templates.
yeah,
Okay.
templates exactly. Yeah, and then Puppeteer. What Puppeteer does is that it takes in the HTML generated using handlebars, it renders it, and then it prints it to PDF.
Okay, excellent. And what about this node mailer too?
Currently, I'm not clear, Proful, because Node Mailer and SMTP client, they are both supposed to do kind of the same thing. Node Mailer was supposed to send an email, so SMTP client is also here. So, Puru, do you know the difference? What is being done?
Uh, no, not
Yeah,
really. I
because
mean,
I
they
did
are
not
both
work on that
email
Yeah,
one.
let
clients.
me explain.
Okay.
Initially, Tolga, this is just sending to email to the Kindle device. We had difficulty into sending the email using node mailer. That's why the Kenny jumped in and resolved that issue. But during that time, right, we are experimenting with that SMTP client as well. So because this
Okay.
node mailer is working fine, so we can remove this SMTP package and the related code. Somebody of
Yeah.
you
So,
can release a PR and can
okay.
fix the issue. So we should not
All
need this
right.
SMTP client anymore. This node mailer is good
Sounds
enough.
good. Sounds good,
Let
Proful.
me explain
What about
about
Node
node.
Caliber?
Yeah, that is, let me explain.
And
Like
okay.
Tolga introduced this node caliber just to experiment with this. The intention behind it, right? It will call some of the external client or packages, like ebook converter. So the PDF can be converted to EPUB and MOBI format. But that is not needed anymore. Just to experimentation he introduced. So this can be and removed and the related dependency. For the phase one, we don't need this. So it is just for experimentation, but somebody can clean up and remove it and just make the code cleaner. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll remove these two
And
packages.
anybody knew about this Clio? I am not sure about it.
It's tied
Yeah,
to the handlebars thing, I think.
no, clear is simply used to give out colorful command line messages.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know that. Cool.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting because I also not sure about it. And EPUB generation, I think is generating EPUB, like Sekhar is working. Let it be hanging there. But I think we
Okay.
are not actively using. Yeah, that's good about packagization, right, Mira? Or you want to touch upon something else?
So after the package dependencies, I wanted to show the configuration, the environment file. So basically,
Like
that's why I wanted
one
to look.
second, like the
Mm.
script talk, can anybody talk about? Like we have like start.mock, thread, I think, can you introduce? Like, is it relevant to discuss now or we can skip it?
We can skip it for now, because for now I'm just using the command line directly. I'm not using node, like we haven't set all the parameters there. So we could still use that, but I'm not familiar with that part correctly.
Yeah, that is not required now. We can skip that and go to which file do you want me to open?
Next, we need to explain the environment variables. So do you have a sample file? Don't show your original file, but yeah.
Yeah.
So this file is the environment file, which .env package actually reads from and sets it in the process.env variable, which we can access. So basically this file, if it's set up correctly with all the parameters, then we can read these values through a variable called process.env. Is that correct, Puru?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So this file needs to be configured correctly. Very, very important. So Twitter auth token is the bearer token. Then these are the email password SMTP setup that you need to configure. And then Twindle library path is where you want the output file to be generated and placed in. And Kindle email is the Kindle email address that you want to send the PDF to.
Okay, one question I have, Mira. How to get this Twitter auth token? Like what I should do?
Okay, so for getting the Twitter auth token, you need to apply for developer access from Twitter. So there is a wiki in our project which explains the steps that you need to do. It is a straightforward and simple process, and I have placed the screenshots on what type of questions they ask during the application and what kind of answers you can give. I've given some suggestions. But for some people, the access is given right away, and for some people, there is a small delay, and they ask some further questions. They take some time to evaluate your application before giving you access. So I'm not sure how that process works. But at the end of that process, there will be a confirmation email from Twitter, and they will give you three things. One is the secret key, the client ID, and the bearer access token. And since this is an application, and we don't really need the user token or the secret key, we can just use the bearer token.
Excellent. So basically, who are new, so they need to go to this wiki and apply for this Twitter API access, which is required for making them run, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And this SMTP server is for email. Like if they're using Gmail, they no need to change this host and port. Only thing that email and password needs to be supplied there.
Supplied here, yes, to make the Kindle email.
Yeah, and this dev step is optional. They can leave as it is. And Twindle library also optional, and Kindle email also optional. Later point of time, they can do that if they really dig into that, right?
Yes.
Even that
so
email also optional. Only thing that to access Twitter access token, author token is only required if they want to play with the real data.
Only Twitter auth token is compulsory. The rest of them, if you want to send to Kindle, then you must apply. You must supply all these email password and Kindle email IDs.
Yeah. Also, if by some reason they don't have Twitter API access, they still can run and contribute, right? There is a mock functionalities available.
Yes, Kenny has set it up, but I think we still need to hook up that mock file. Puru has just made a PR related to that. So I'm not sure if we have changed the mock file path to point to that path to generate the PDF.
No problem. That is in progress, but we won't go into the detail now. But
yeah,
that
so
is something
basically
is
you get the same PDF over and over again. So there is a single mock file that will be placed, and that JSON can be used for producing the PDF file.
Yeah, just to give a context, even though if some developer don't have that Twitter API access token, still they can contribute. But it would be they have to contact Kenny or you just to know a little bit more on that, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Which file you want to go next?
I think we can start with the index.js.
Okay.
So yeah, so there are 4 modules in this file. The first one is to receive the command line parameters. So when you run the application, you pass a bunch of command line parameters. So the first one, it processes those command line parameters and supplies the values to this program. So that is the prepare CLI function.
What about these two, logger and .env file?
Logger is just for the console.log. Like, so basically, if you use a console.log in the code, it's going to print it to the output. So we don't want that. So Kenny has set this dev log parameter. So as long as you turn the dev parameter on in the config file, only then you'll get those lines as output.
Yeah, I think Tolga
So-
did that.
Oh, Tolga did that? I thought Kenny did it. Okay. Yeah. So the logger is for that specific purpose, although I'm not using it. For now, I'm just because our product is not ready. So I'm just using console.log to debug.
No issue, no issue.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So before looking at the imports, that's the constants at the top, the requires at the top, we can just take a small look at the code. So there are 4 modules. Like I explained, the first module is to get the command line parameters from the from the input that we are going to supply when you run the application. The second one is once you have those parameters, can you scroll down a little bit, Proful?
Yeah, I'm scrolling down.
Yeah. So once that is there, so from the command line parameters, you will get the tweet ID, or if it's a mock file, then we'll get the mock file flag set.
But we are not passing any parameter here, like main function, how this command line thing is
The
working.
prepare CLI function is actually going to do that. So that's what I wanted to explain. So the first part is the command line parameters. The second part is getting the tweets. So whether from a mock file or from the Twitter API. And the third part is to prepare the PDF. So if you scroll down the code, you can get the overall gist first, then we can drill deep into the code.
Okay,
So the
sounds good.
third part is to render the PDF. And the fourth part is to send the Kindle email.
So this is the second part, right? Rendering the PDF.
Third part. Yeah, the third part. The first part is the command line arguments, preparing them and getting the values. The second part is getting the tweets. The third part is preparing the PDF from the tweets. And the fourth part is sending the email.
Okay, good.
So if you look at the code, this is the overall structure.
Yeah, excellent.
So once this is there in place, you can now drill down into the individual paths that you can focus on. So for example, if you want to understand how the command line arguments are being received, you can go to this function called prepare CLI.
How to find it?
Scroll down now. See, this is the way you must read the code. So once you start reading the code, don't look at the imports in the beginning. Okay, then you won't understand. So first start reading the code. Look at a function. If you don't find that function within the same file, then you need to scroll all the way to the top and look for that function in the imports.
I'll search it.
Yeah, search it. Okay, so now you see that it is an import from a file called CLI. So that must be a file CLI.js somewhere outside, which is in the same level. So / means it's at the same level. So there will be a file called CLI.js, and you need to look for that function within that file.
So this CLI.js, shall I open it?
Yes, open it. So you will find that prepare CLI function there.
Excellent. So let me search it for it. Yeah. So which is...
So you find that function there. Yeah. So now this function is calling another function called create library if not exist. So you must repeat the same process. So if you want to understand in detail, this is how you must go about.
Oh, I think it is referring to another file.
Another file. Yeah. So what this program does overall, I can explain. But if you want to understand the code in detail, this is how you must drill down into the code and try to understand everything.
Yeah.
I hope.
No need to. We will skip couple of things, but because we just started, right? We'll go at least one end to end.
Okay.
So here we can go to utils and library, right?
Library.js. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can leave it for other people, but we can at least go one at least. Yeah, what does it does?
Create library if not exist basically gets the library path and it sets up the output path folder. So the Twindle library folder. So that's what this does.
Yeah, where the PDF file will be stored, right?
Yeah, where the PDF file gets it creates. If that Twindle library folder doesn't exist locally, then it creates it.
Yeah. I think it is good. Now you can explain about the CLI. This is what is this command line argument, what this YArgs do. It is a bit confusing to me.
Okay, Puru, you can explain this better because I know what this does, but I can't explain every piece of the code. So the usage is actually indicates a small example of how to use it. So that part, dash I, tweet ID, dash F, the file format. So that just gives you a usage example. Then the options are where you must define your option. So say if you want to add an option, then you place it in that part of the code.
Yeah, one thing to interrupt.
Yeah.
Like this prepare CLI, I think is only coming up with the library path. That's
Yes.
what we see in.
Library path. Yeah. So that part is done. Now the next part is where the get command line argues.
Yeah, this is where it is doing the magic.
Yes.
Yeah. Can somebody explain about it is what it doing? No need to go each and every line, just in a very high level.
So basically, it gets the parameters that we are passing in the command line, and it tries to map it to these options that are already defined. So if this option I is present, then it picks up that value. Does that make sense? So it looks for a map basically between the options that are defined here and the options that we pass in the command line.
Yeah. And also the usage, I think we have to keep updating because we introduced like des flag and
it's just for a example that he has provided. Yeah, so we must update it.
Yeah.
So this is basically just a mapping that it does. So it looks for these options in the command line that we are passing and retrieves those values.
Like Puru asked me to show some example. We can just try to. Yeah, so we won't go into the all option, but this is how the program we should run, right? We have to go to Twindle CLI folder and we have to do node dot. What does this dot mean?
Not dot, basically just, O is important.
Index.js.
Yeah, index.js. Index is a default file name. So if you don't give node index, then it just picks up the index file.
Okay, and this -i means I should go here and read it about it, right?
Read about it, yes. So if you want to know what are the options available, then you must look at the options that are defined in this function and what each of them means. So you must figure out what are the options that are available and see what parameters you want to pass to the application.
Okay. So this I and the tweet ID, right?
Yes. O is compulsory. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see the next one is the file format, I think.
Why O is compulsory?
Mira, it's not compulsory. I just fixed that.
Okay.
This morning.
Previously I thought it was compulsory.
Previously it was. No, right now it's not. It's going to automatically generate a name like say if it's my tweet you are trying to generate it, the name will come out as Puru-6-NOV-2020.
Cool.
Yeah, let us run the one program. I'm not sure why it is taking a bit of time today. Earlier it was very fast.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm doing this net call. Yeah, I think this generated. If you see, this Puru is done like if you don't specify the output file, we can specify the output file using deso option and XYZ PDF. But if you don't give right that author name, the time when he created the thread, the PDF is generating, which is good enough.
Wow, this is amazing. I didn't know this. This is new to me.
Yeah.
New to all of us.
Like, let me see that one example, then we can dive into core a little bit more again.
Yeah.
Just to give in context about. Yeah, this is the output we generated, right?
Yes. Must be created.
Yeah. So this is okay. Let me close it. We won't go into detail today's technical walkthrough. Yeah. So this I option, we'll talk a little bit about I option is we have to pass the thread ID, right?
Yeah, the tweet ID, the first tweet on the thread.
What is the relevant of F option?
F is the file format that we want the file in. Currently, I think we're only doing PDF. So if you don't give F, then PDF file by default is what we process.
Okay. What about this O?
O is just the file name you just showed. If you don't pass it, then it just picks up the user of the thread, his name and the date.
And S?
S is for the Kindle email address. So if you want to send the PDF to a Kindle email, then you must pass this parameter.
But it is optional, right? If
Yes,
lots of people don't have Kindle, so they don't need to pass it.
Yeah, everything is optional. So even the I option is optional. So if you don't pass the I, then that means M flag should be set to true. So
Oh,
it'll pick up a mock file.
is it happening?
Right now, I don't think. I mean, Puru, did you fix the path?
No, I didn't.
So see, it won't work right now because originally it was passed. It was the file name was set to some JSON file, but it was a Twitter API response, and the JSON structure wasn't matching. So there was some error. So I'll fix that today.
Okay.
So
And M
the mock
option,
is just a
do I
Boolean
need to
flag.
give?
The M option is a Boolean flag. So you must say -M/true. Then if you set it to true, then it'll generate the default PDF.
But true is, I think, not needed. Like, why should we get true? If I want to mock, I should just give like hyphen and dash M. It should be good enough.
Yeah, it
Um,
works. Dash M
okay.
just works. No need
Okay.
for true and false.
And what
Okay.
is this P flag is about?
Again, that I'm not sure because they were planning on
Uh,
using Puppeteer integration. So
yeah, I'll explain it. So it's extremely experimental. Like the current stable method, we are using the Twitter API version 2, but the limitation is that we uh, we can't get threads older than 7 days. So now we are using Puppeteer for scraping all the content out of the page. It's extremely experimental, but yeah, we are working on it.
Okay, wonderful. So I think we gone through the CLI. Anything else you want to touch upon, Mira or Puru?
no, I think this part is the first part. So to understand how the command line arguments work, this is the file that you must look at.
Yeah, so you discussed about a couple of options from our main program. So we covered in the first CLI and command line parameter, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what should be the next?
Next is to get the tweets. So there is a JSON structure that we must get, JSON or whatever, the tweet array that we must get. So if the mock flag is set by default, it picks up this file. This is the path that we must change profile. So that's what I was talking to you about. So the mock file that Puru has updated, we must change the path to point to that file, that file's path. So once that is there, so it picks it up by default. The JSON that's present in the tweets, it picks it up. Then if it's not mock, then it checks the Puppeteer flag. If it is Puppeteer, then it picks up that function, or makes call to my Twitter API, which is the get tweets from tweet ID. So this is a little convoluted. I didn't have it like this originally, but because the mock and Puppeteer integration has been done now, so there is this extreme logic here.
Yeah, but if you, even though we are not setting the mock flag, right, it is unnecessary loading that JSON, I think, which is not desirable.
Yeah, I mean, I did not write this logic, so I was little confused too. I was just trying to understand how it works, and this is how I understood it.
I mean, well, I'm fine by it. That JSON is just like 40 KB and it's locally there, so I don't think it matters. Barely any latency.
Yeah, I think we can discuss later on that, but it is fine for now. Yeah, so you want to go any
So
deep dive?
ultimately, at the end of it, you will get a bunch of tweets. So the tweets
Okay.
variable will be set whether from the mock file or from the web scraping Puppeteer project or from the Twitter API. So there are 3 ways you can get the tweets, and that's what this logic does.
Yeah, the first one is for mock file, the second one is from Puppeteer, and third one is for the API, right?
API, yes.
So you want to explain the API next, Mira?
Yeah, you can open the file. So the same logic, get tweets from tweet ID, search for that function, look at the file where it's found, and that's how you proceed.
But
So
before going to that, because that
I
would
know
be...
where it is, but I'm just trying to explain how people should find it. So
Yeah.
Twitter,
Just
under
explain
the Twitter,
about, because some of the time, right, instead of going through that that way, if you can explain about like this Twitter folder structure, so it will be more familiarity with people. So
Okay.
all the code you kept in this Twitter folder, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yes, all the files are there here. So index.js is the starting point of the folder, and that has the get tweets from tweet ID function.
Yeah, we'll go into the program a little bit in a few seconds. But can you just talk about a little bit about this folder? What are the content we can have?
Yeah, can you open those folders, Proful? Because I don't.
But why this
exactly-
package lesson is available? Can we delete it, please?
Yeah, we can. I actually deleted it last time, but I don't know. It's back again. Maybe it's some kind of a merge issue.
Okay, no issue. Yeah. So
So you can you open the helpers? I think the error file is there within the helpers. Is that right, Puru? Yeah.
Yeah,
in-
right.
So the custom error that we are generating, so the error is defined in the helper, and the logger, the dev log is also, I think, within
yeah,
within
we'll
that.
just discuss about in a high level, then we'll go into the code. Just no need to be accurate. What is this
Yeah.
miscellaneous folder you talk about?
Miscellaneous folder is see, originally when I wrote the code, I had a single JavaScript file which was doing getting tweets from version 1.1. There are two ways of getting tweets from version 1.1, then version 2 that we're using the conversation ID. So all of those scripts, I didn't want to discard them completely because down the road somebody might want to leverage the 1.1 API also. So I've just placed those scripts that I originally wrote and they work. So I have put it in that folder.
But if you are not relevant, right, I would suggest you to put into the spike folder. There is another spike
Okay.
folder just to keep, or because it is already committed, it would be there. So we can go
Okay.
back to the Git history and have a look. So if it is not
Okay,
relevant,
sounds good.
right, kindly delete it.
Yeah, I'll move it outside.
Yeah, into the spike folder, there is another spike folder,
Mm,
like in the playground, right?
mm.
The CLI and spike, you can just keep it there.
Sounds good.
But if you got the idea, right? If it is not using, few people will be confused, like why it is needed, and they will be worried about it.
Yeah, I can delete that folder.
Yeah.
So output folder was where I was originally generating the JSON. So remember, originally the tweets from my end from the Twitter API, I was putting it in a JSON structure. But now we are no longer doing that. We're just getting the tweets directly from my variable itself. Is that correct, Puru?
Yeah, we can easily delete the output folder. We are not using it.
Using it anymore. Yeah. So
Please
so
delete it.
miscellaneous and
This
output
cleanup
folder.
activity also, Mira and Puru, this cleanup activity also very important because you guys know which to delete, which not to. Because if you ask me also, I can't delete because I think that there may be some dependency somewhere, other thing, it would be confuse me. So if you feel at any point which is not required, please delete it.
Okay, sounds good.
And what about this?
Twitter responses are sample responses from Twitter, which we use for the HTTP template. So just to look at it, what are the fields that are being returned by the Twitter API?
Okay. And what about
Although I
this?
think Puru created it, and I think he can explain why he has so many files inside it. This is the mock response folder that Puru has created right now. So I'll be moving it somewhere else outside.
Yeah,
They use it for the mock
that is
flag.
fine. I got the idea. Both the content should be mock-up and there should be a little bit cleanup needed. I'm not very
Okay.
fussed about it, but the bottom line is that whichever we are using, right, you keep it. Other thing, you feel free to delete it. Don't have the junk file here lying around.
Okay.
Because if we need, right, in future, we can definitely go back and see the commit history, and we can pull out any again and again.
Okay. Sounds good.
And
So utils is the folder, yeah, where I have everything defined. So here a couple of files are pretty easy. So I'll explain that first. One is the Twitter endpoints.js. So that's where I have defined all the Twitter endpoints that I need. So one is for the lookup and the other is the search endpoint. So both of them are defined in the endpoints.js file.
Okay. We'll go into a little bit deep dive. So this is where most of your code related to Twitter API
Yes.
call and other things there, right?
Yes, all of my code is within this folder.
Yeah. So which one you want me to open now?
First, you open the index.js file because that is the starting point.
Yeah, go ahead, Mira.
So get tweets from tweet ID is the function that we start. So we are passing the tweet ID in the command line application. So using that tweet ID, we do something called a do tweet lookup. So I'll first explain the flow of how the logic works. So we have a tweet ID. So assuming that that is the first tweet in a tweet thread, is it my noise? I'm sorry. Is there something coming from my background?
No, it my noise. That's fine.
Okay. So assuming that we have the first tweet ID, first tweet ID in a specific thread. So what we do is we do a simple tweet lookup to a lookup endpoint provided by Twitter. So that endpoint provides all the information about that specific tweet. So from that information, what is the most important piece of information is the conversation ID. So if a thread is created and the first tweet's ID becomes the conversation ID for that thread. So the conversation ID helps us to uniquely identify tweets that are present on that particular thread. So that is the first API endpoint that I hit to get that conversation ID. So once we have the conversation ID, the second API call that I make is to the search endpoint, where I create a query, pass that conversation ID, and filter out the replies only made by that specific user. I don't want other replies that are there on that thread. So I construct a query that pass the conversation ID and replies that have been made by that specific user on that conversation. So these are the two API hits that I make, and this is how my logic is written. So if you start from this do tweet lookup, you can see the flow in which I have written the logic.
Yeah, Mira, can you navigate me to the code, because this is a bit important piece. Let us spend a few more time into understanding the flow.
Okay, so you need to go to the tweet lookup request. So do tweet lookup is in tweet lookup request.js under the utils folder. Yes. Tweet lookup request. Yeah. So if you scroll down a little bit, you will see that function. Yeah. So this is where I make the API call. Basically, I compute the URL by appending the tweet ID to that URL that we have already. Remember, I told you the API endpoints are already hard-coded. So basically, I append the tweet ID to that URL and pass the token. The get request options is another function that passes the bearer token to that request, the get request that I'm making using the fetch. So fetch is the function, JavaScript function that makes the HTTP get request. The URL is computed, the header and the authorization token is placed in the header, and the fetch makes the call to the API. Is that clear? Should I explain more?
Yeah, just explain about the get URL, where to find it, and get request option.
Get request options is in the same file. I think get URL Puru has moved it to tweet utils.
Yeah,
So,
it's
I don't know why he moved it, but it was originally in this file, but I noticed yesterday that it's been moved. So yeah. So for the specific tweet ID, you fetch the endpoint to fetch conversation IDs. This is the parameter, this is the variable that's defined in the Twitter API endpoints file. So basically getting that, appending the tweet ID, and passing all these optional parameters. Yeah. So yeah, you can see it here. The endpoint to fetch conversation ID, that is the URL that we must hit. So to this URL, I concatenate the tweet ID. And then these are the optional parameters that we must pass to the Twitter URL. We must add to the Twitter URL. Otherwise, we're not getting all this information. So tweet fields are the fields, all the information that relate to the tweet. Expansions are all attachments that we have on the tweet, like user information, any other media attachments that are there on the tweet. All of that is there in the. Yeah, so you can see. So if there is a poll on the tweet, then you need the poll fields. If there is a location that's marked on the tweet, then you need the place fields. And we have no idea what the tweet contains at the moment we have the ID, right? So I'm passing, because if you don't pass all these fields, then Twitter returns absolutely nothing. It just returns an ID and tweet text.
Yeah, this makes sense, Mira. You can continue. There is bit noise is coming, so I'll be in mute. I'm just navigating the code, okay?
Okay. So this is how I have constructed the URL with that specific tweet ID. So now we make the fetch API call, and you can take a look at the get request options where I simply place the bearer token. So yeah, tweet lookup request file. If you scroll all the way to the top, you can see the get request options file, the function. Yeah, where I simply place the authorization bearer token. And this bearer token is picked up from the environment file. Yeah, if you go to that file, you can see that it's picking it up. So Twitter API keys. Yeah, so process.env.twitter auth token. So if the config file is not defined correctly, then here Puru throws a user error.
That's actually Kenny's work.
Oh, Kenny's work. Okay. But it is your user error that you have defined. So good.
Yeah, that much.
So this part is done. So now we make the fetch API call. So assuming that the call is successful because we have appended the correct auth token and a well-defined tweet ID, then we get a response back from Twitter. So now we process this response. So there's a separate function called process response. You need to scroll down. Yeah, look for that function. Yeah. So if the auth token was incorrect, like there is a well-defined auth token, but the auth token is incorrect, or maybe the auth token has expired. I don't know. I mean, there are several scenarios possible. Then in that case, Twitter returns an error response. This is returned by Twitter. So that to tackle that, we have this first block where it throws an error saying request failed. Then as long as Twitter returns a proper response, we get the JSON structure from it, because Twitter returns all responses in the form of a JSON structure. Then we look at the if the tweet is deleted, and if the tweet doesn't exist, then Twitter returns an error JSON where it says this particular tweet doesn't exist. So I'm checking that using this function, is tweet deleted. Then if the tweet is not deleted, then we are going to get a proper tweet JSON. So that is being parsed out using this function get tweet object. So basically it's the same thing as the response JSON itself. I've just written a separate function because sometimes Twitter might wrap it inside another variable or an attribute. Like in the JSON structure, they could put it in an attribute. So I've written it as a separate function to just parse that out. So now after I get the tweet, I'm checking. Yeah, you can go ahead and take a look at the get tweet object profile if you want. That is defined in the tweet utils. So if you go, so see, it's just the first attribute data. The data is an array that's being sent by Twitter. So it's just the first element passed out of the data object. So that is what will be returned by this tweet object. So basically, we'll just get the JSON structure for the tweet. I am not sure what this includes does. What does that do, Puru?
I use that includes to actually render the media and the rich link boxes.
Okay. So I'm guessing that's just another attribute on the object itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So once we have the tweet, I look at the tweet information to see if the tweet is not older than 7 days, because if it is older than 7 days, the code would still work, but we won't get the complete set of tweets. So the first bunch of tweets will be cut off because we won't get information about those tweets. Does that make sense, Praful? Because only if we want the complete set of tweets, right? We don't want to render a half-baked system. So that is why I'm placing this check here.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So the next thing that I do is I check if the tweet that we have looked up right now is the first tweet, because sometimes they might pass something in the middle. Then again, we won't be able to render the complete output. So we would only get the tweets after that specific tweet. So again, it doesn't solve the purpose of creating this application. So I'm checking if it is the first tweet or not. If it is the first tweet, then I proceed as it is. If it is not the first tweet, then I go get the first tweet.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. So that's what I do here. And then there is a process called process tweet lookup, where I get the conversation ID. Remember, I told you before, the purpose of this tweet lookup is to basically get the conversation ID. So that is what I do in this process tweet lookup.
Is it a kind of recursion, like it is calling the same function again and again inside it?
No, it's not exactly recursion. So if it's not the first tweet, then there's no point in dealing with this tweet ID. So what I do is I repeat the same process for the first tweet.
But if you see that under the do tweet lookup, it is calling process response. Inside that, you are calling the same method again.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like this is this function is calling its parent function again.
Parent function, but this is just one level deep. It's not multiple levels.
Yeah, it is fine, but it is I think it is recursion only, but we can discuss more on later.
Yeah, it is recursion, but it's not like multiple. It won't keep calling it over and over again. So like, say for example, if it's not the first tweet, you go one level deep, but then at that point that becomes the first tweet, right? So you won't go further.
Yeah, that is good, but be careful on that. Okay, keep an eye on that because it may cause. That's fine. I
Yeah.
think as long as you know that is fine, but be extra careful on that.
Okay. So now you need to go to the process tweet lookup function that is there in the tweet lookup response file.
Yes.
So yeah, so here from the tweet, from the response that we got from Twitter, I have the tweet now. I have the user object, which is also returned from the tweet. So that is another, it's just another includes users attribute on the tweet response. So does that make sense? So yeah, so basically I get the tweet and I get the user information. Then I create a new tweet object that we need for the PDF processing, which is the common and the add tweet function. That's what this does. So it extracts the information that we need. I've created separate functions called add common and add tweet based on what information we need to extract out of the JSON response. So I've constructed it and I've put it inside the array, inside an array that we will be using for the PDF processing. Then after that, we do the tweet search. So the first tweet is now done. It's done with. Now we have the conversation ID. So based on the conversation ID, I do a tweet search. So that is another request. So that is there in a separate file.
Okay, which file this is available? Do tweet search?
Yes, it is there in tweet search request.js. Tweet search request.js.
Okay.
So now this function needs the conversation ID and the screen name, because remember, we need to filter out the replies. So we only want the replies by that same author. We don't want other replies. So here the get URL again here is the way you construct the URL and the same request options, and we make another fetch to the search endpoint this time, not to the lookup endpoint.
Yeah, you've written so much code, Mira. It's getting really complex.
Okay.
Thanks for that. But I think for the beginner, right, it would be a little bit challenging initially, how to make their head around.
Yeah.
So what would be your suggestion to make the testing and understanding the code better and better?
Well, I was planning on making some kind of a flowchart explaining why we are doing this, but to understand the code and to make changes in the code, yes, they will have to drill down into the code, because I'm sure Puru did the same thing. Puru has made changes to my code so much that I don't even recognize it anymore. He has understood my code far better than how I wrote it. Was it easy for you, Puru?
I wouldn't say it was exactly very easy. I mean, it took me around like 4 hours to to understand it completely. But yeah, I think I understand it now.
See?
I mean, I've written a lot of it, so I definitely understand.
Yeah. So to make changes, yes, you will have to understand, drill down into the code and understand it. There is no other way.
Yeah, now it would be a big challenge. You both guys can keep on thinking because we are the main objective is twofold. One is to convert the Twitter ID to the PDF or mobile format. At the same time, we want to encourage beginners, right? Beginners maybe in various level. So not the priority at this moment. Let us make it working. But we have to keep on thinking that how we can organize our code better and make it more so that if people can change in one place, they should be, able to test it independently instead of running everything. Some way we have to think through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Mira. Any?
Yeah, so basically the same thing now happens for the search endpoint. So we get the get URL function basically constructs the search query and creates the URL for the second API call, and it returns the response. And then we process the response the same manner that we did in the previous file. So it checks if the request is successful, then it constructs the JSON, and then it loops through the arrays. I mean, the logic is quite complex. There is no getting around it because that's how the API is structured. I wish they had made it simple, if we could just pass the conversation ID and they return everything back to us. But that's not how their API works. So they have several restrictions and they don't return to us in the correct chronological order also sometimes. So we need to loop through the response to figure out everything matches in the right order. So that's why I had to write so much code. Yeah. So once all this is done, if you go to the file called tweet info, that is where all the tweets are written to. So there is a file called tweet info.js. Yeah. So this is the tweet. So you see the first variable here. That's the global variable that we are creating. So the common is the structure that I've created for the banner on top of the PDF file. So whatever is needed is put there, and then the data array that you see is all the tweet information that we need, so which will be populated by my Twitter API call. So this is the structure that we are creating the JSON, and once this is there, Puru uses this for rendering the PDF template. So I think we can explain that. Okay, Puru, do you want to take over from here? Because now the tweets variable is set, assuming that that's the case. So now do you want to explain the PDF part?
Can you go on yourself?
Really?
Yeah.
Because I don't think I'm doing a good job. I think I'm complicating things. So that's
No,
why I
no,
was
no, no,
thinking,
no. No. It's like you are stating things as they are. Like you are not complicating them any.
okay. So now assuming that this is ready, so can you go back to that original file profile where we started off? The first file, the index.js that was in Twindle CLI. So see, so here the tweets that you're reading, that is the tweets that we saw, just the structure that we saw in the tweet info file. So you get that. Okay, so now that is there. The next thing that you do is renderer.render. This is again Kenny's magic. So he wanted us to write generic piece of code because down the road we might support multiple formats. So he created this renderer.render. Based on the format, it will call the PDF folder. So if you go to this renderer.render function, where is that? I'm not sure. So you might need to see the import. Yeah, renderer. Yeah. So there is a switch case here. So right now we are only supporting the PDF. So it calls this generate PDF function. And this generate PDF function is within the PDF folder. Yeah, there is a PDF folder and yeah. So here we are passing both the tweets that I retrieved from the API, and the output path where we originally set up the output path for the file. So we are passing these two. Now we have something called a render template function where we pass this information from the tweets. And along with this variable thread, so this render template function actually creates that HBS file, and it supplies all that data to the HBS file. So if you go to that render template function, you can see, you can understand it better. Yeah, so it reads the template file, which is the thread.hbs. That's the second parameter that we passed in the previous function, right? So it reads this HBS file and it passes all the values that we had sent, all the tweet information. So if you scroll down, you can see all the values that we are using. So common was in the original structure that we saw. So it renders the user information here, and then so the profile image, the username, the name of the user, whether he's verified or not, and the user handle, then when the thread was created, and the user description, just a small description about the user and how many tweets are there on the thread. So all of that information is given from the tweet API. So Proful is showing a sample example PDF structure. So this is how the first part of the HBS is constructed. And if you scroll down, you can see all the tweets information.
And the images.
And the images, yes, very important. So each thread is basically looping through all the tweets in the array that we are passing. So the first part of it was the common information. The second part is all the tweets. So we are looping through the set of tweets.
That this very complex part is just for rendering the media. That's it. And this part, it's actually to show the rich boxes about images, like the preview, the description, the title, the URL, just like you see on Twitter. It's not complete yet. There are very weird bugs happening, but yeah, it will be done soon.
So basically, we are evaluating this HBS file against the data from the tweets that we got from Twitter or the mock or whatever from Puppeteer, maybe down the road. So we create this, we evaluate this template against that data, and we return that as a HTML file. That's what this render template basically does. So now we go back to that generate PDF function. Yeah, so that function returns the HTML content. So as long as the number of tweets in the tweets data is greater than 0, then we go ahead and create, because sometimes there might not be any data passed. So at that point, there's no point evaluating the template or creating the file. So we go ahead and create the file if there are tweets. Maybe we could even place the if condition above. I don't know. I didn't think about that. So we go ahead and create the PDF. The create PDF function basically just writes the HTML content in a PDF file on that specific output path. So you can take a look at that function. Yeah, all of that is new to me. Originally, there was only this one function. Now, I guess Puru has written logic for the footer, header, all of those things. So yeah, here again, they're using Puppeteer. So maybe Puru can explain this part.
So so now what we are doing is we are launching Puppeteer. Then we are creating a new page using the await browser.new page method. Then we are setting the HTML into that page right now. Then what we are doing, we are trying to print we are trying to print the page. So we are emulating the media type of print. and and then we are actually printing it into a PDF using await page.pdf online 38. All these options help to all these options just like add say they are all just cosmetic stuff, nothing much.
Yeah, big shout out to Tolga. I think he wrote the core code originally.
Yeah.
And Puru has made a lot of changes to the template, footer template, the header template, and all of those things, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah. So finally, yeah, now I see the clear library
Yeah, the
function
clear
where
is
it
here.
just, yeah, it prints it in color. So the output that you see, it's in different colors. Yeah, so for that purpose, they're using this. Yeah, the colors that you see here are that library is being used. Yeah, so I know I've not done a great job explaining everything, but it was a little complicated to write the code, and there are some more changes that we might have to make to clean it up. So if anybody has any suggestions on how to clean up the code, that would be great. I can refactor or I can help somebody who's refactoring the code. Okay. Puru, what are the options that you have left for the rendering part on the PDF?
The things I want to work is like right, like initially when you render all the tweets, you don't see the images in it. You don't see the embedded tweets or those rich link boxes. You see like a small like just links like just t.co/something, t.co/something, and blah 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 for every single thing. So what I've done, I've actually finished the image rendering part. The next thing that I need to complete is rendering the rich link boxes, and then the embedded tweet parts. That's it for me.
Okay. So yeah, so that part is pending in the PDF part. Now Vijay was working on the Puppeteer because we have this restriction of 7 days old. So if he's successful in scraping the tweet IDs of that specific thread, then I can write another function, or maybe I can even use something that's already there to make the API call with a bunch of tweet IDs and then basically just get the tweet information. So this way we can circumvent the 7 day restriction. Yeah. Yeah, the part that I have to work on is quite simple. Like you said, I can pass multiple IDs to a single API call and even get the information. So yeah, that part is not stopping me. It's just that I haven't started working on it. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I already promised Vijay that I will finish that function, which he can use later in his Puppeteer integration. I can only think of these two things. Can you think of something? I mean, of course, the website launch and all of that is there, but in this part, okay. Okay, sounds good. This is what I know. Like for example, I needed to help Puru with some of those render images URLs. I don't know how he's reading them from the response, whether he has understood it correctly or if I need to help him with something there. So that's it.
Learn each other code better.
Yeah, I've understood the most of the changes that Puru has made, and I've also understood Tolga's code a little bit. So only with that we were able to integrate the two pieces anyway. So
Yeah, like whichever the, because see, we should not be bottleneck. We should not wait. Like if Vijay Bhaskar posts a better code, right? We should take that initiative and make the changes, like the way Puru did your code changes. So we did some good progress, right?
yeah,
Similarly, we should not be restricted by somebody when, because we may have our availability in different time, right? Someday you will
yeah.
be free, someday Puru, someday Vijay. So whichever is free, then you can take that code and improve it.
Sounds good, Praful. So you've already given me a bunch of changes that I need to make, remove those unnecessary folders and everything. So I'll do that, and I will finish that function which takes a bunch of tweet IDs and basically returns JSON structure that we've built here for the PDF.
Yeah. Once
I'll
you
see
do
if I
that,
can make
I'll
it
have
up.
few more suggestions. I don't want to overburden with you now, but we'll
Okay.
keep on improving on that front. Okay. There is few
Okay.
tweaks we need to make in that area also.
In which area? I'm sorry.
Like multiple tweet ID, if it is
Okay.
belong to same user, right, then the profile makes sense. If it is belong to different user, then the profile information doesn't make sense.
You mean the
Remember?
cover page? Okay. Yeah.
We'll think about through all these scenarios, but that's later.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, Puru, do you want to add anything concluding remarks?
Nah, it's cool.
Mira, you have anything?
No, I'm done.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. It was very wonderful
Okay.
discussion with both of you.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.